It's a pleasure and an honor again to moderate another session, and this time with people like Gabriela and Dolores. As I said, two reincidents. They were with us last year, and they will be with us next year as well. So I understood, right? This time it will be on the key to protect your assets. And I'll present a short bio of our speakers. Gabriela holds 2 university degrees as a certified Sworn Translator from the University of La Plata, and English and literature teacher also from the University of La Plata. She is also an ISO 27001 internal auditor. It's about data security, right?
Security management systems.
Security management
That's
system.
what we are going to talk about today.
Perfect. She holds a degree from Fundación Litterae as a copy editor and 2 certifications in post-editing and transcreation from the Translation Automation User Society. She has been lecturing on quality management, international quality standards, and post-editing in Europe, the US, South and Central America, including several virtual conferences, among them the ITA conference last year. Gabriela has actively participated at IRAM. It's the parallel to our standards institution, Mahonat Kanim, in the adoption and adaptation of some standards related to language and terminology and information security systems. She is a member of ASTM Technical Committee F43 on language services and products, as well as a member of the ATA Standards Committee. May I say, wow, I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
Dolores Guinazu is a certified Sworn translator. She holds also an MBA in marketing management from UNSAL, Universidad del Salvador, and Albany University. From the State University of New York, Albany. And she's a certified international copy editor. She has 2 certifications from the Translation Automation User Society in post-editing and transcreation. She specializes in marketing and quality management, also a member of the ASTM TC F43 and language services and products, and the ATA Standards Committee. She's also an internal auditor of ISO 27001 by Bureau Veritas, and an active member of IRAM on translation and interpreting and security issues in Argentina. Dolores actively participates in the discussions for the adaptation and translation of the standards for the Argentine market. She has been lecturing on quality processes, international quality standards, and post-editing in Asia, Europe, the USA, and South America, including many virtual conferences globally since 2017. I will not go further with your bios, otherwise we won't have time for your lecture. So without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, Yuri, for inviting us. We are very happy to be here and to share what we have been studying and researching. And Gabriela will begin. Thank you.
Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. We are really excited to be here at ITA again. Last year we were sharing some brief knowledge about how to demystify standards and implement them in your translation process. And today we are going to see how to protect your assets that are part of your translation process. This is something crucial. Nowadays we have many risks and we have to be aware of how to protect them. So before we get started, I will like to ask a question to you. I don't expect you to answer, but please just stop and think. Are all your assets protected? Are all the things that you handle daily protected? After the presentation, you can reconsider that and tell us something about it. So even though you can protect them, let us tell you that security is not 100% achievable. As Gene Spackford from Purdue University once said, the only secure computer system is the one that is shut down inside a concrete block, protected in a sealed room, surrounded by armed guards, and even then I have my doubts. So it's not, you can never be 100% safe and secure regarding your assets, but there are, as we will share today, different ways of following processes to protect them. So our message is, please don't panic, relax, take it easy. So we will start by talking from the father of the PDCA cycle, Edward Deming, who said that he was very fond of processes, and he said that if you can't describe what you are doing as a process, then you don't know what you're doing. So all that you do in your daily job as a translator should follow a process so as to ensure the best quality, and as we will speak today, to ensure the security of your assets. He presented and introduced the PDCA cycle that stands for plan, do, check, and act. And today we will see how to implement it. Most ISO standards follow this PDCA cycle in the processes that are suggested by them. So we will see them how to implement them in ISO 27001. Which is about, as I was telling, about information security management system. So if you want to implement some system to secure your information and your assets, first of all, you have to plan. You have to collect all the data of your assets, sit down, write down all the assets that you do handle daily in your translation business, identify the risks that they are exposed to, establish security objectives for all of them, and define roles and responsibilities in the people that will handle them, or maybe if you are the sole owner in your business, you have to identify what kind of measures you can take to secure the assets. Then comes the do step, that is, you have to implement and follow all the planned processes that you thought about. We are not going to give you in this presentation the solution to your own processes. We are going to tell you how to organize your translation business so that you can secure them. Each translator has different assets, has different systems and realities. So each of you, as the standard says, has the standard tells you what to do, but not how to do it. So every now and then you have to check. You have, as Deming said, you have to review and verify that all the safety measures are being implemented. You have thought about the measures, you have implemented them, and every now and then you check them. And when you check them, if you observe that there are some deviations, you have to adopt corrective and preventive actions based on the reviews that you carry out. So before we move on, I would like to define what an asset is and what kind of assets you may handle as a translator. Assets are something that organization values or you value, and therefore you must protect. This is ISO IEC definition. Your assets can be the hardware and the software that you handle in your business, the people that work for you, with you, the infrastructure, the services you offer, and also the last but not least, the information that you handle, that is your information and your client's information. So information, as we said, it's one asset, it's a resource, and like all other business assets, it has value for the organization and it has to be adequately protected. Where is all the information? Well, you handle information in all the devices you use for your business. You also upload information in different clouds or in different servers, or you can send information by email. You have to be aware of a method of protecting all these different instances in which you use the information. Also, the people that work for you or with you may handle information because they are aware of the different documentation that the client sends to you. And finally, you also have documentation that is physical that you have on your office, and you have to be aware of not leaving any open doors and giving free access to some confidential information. The information has a life cycle for translators. If you are a copywriter, you may create the information, or as a translator, you receive the information that you are going to process, which is the second step for your client. Once your translation is ready, you are going to send it back to the client. This is very important, the way you send it, so that you do it in a safe manner that is not vulnerable to hackers or any other risks. And once you have sent information to the client, you also have to reconsider, which is something simple but very important, what you are going to do with that information. Are you going to store it? Are you going to maintain the information, for instance, the TMs, which is part of your quality service, or are you going to destroy it? Some clients may specifically ask you to destroy the information. So apart from that, all the different assets might have a level of confidentiality. You may have some assets that are public, for example, your website. You may have other assets that can have only internal access, others that are restricted to some people, even within your company, and others that can only be accessed through written and explicit authorization. So, going back to Edward Deming's PDCA cycle that can be applied in different manners, when you are ready to, you have already identified your assets, you can make an inventory, you can classify them regarding the level of importance and confidentiality. You can assign ownership and responsibilities to your assets if you have different people in your company, or if you are the sole owner, you must be aware of how to handle that safely. And finally, you have to maintain, you are responsible, or each of the owners are responsible of maintaining the integrity, the availability, and the confidentiality of your assets, which is exactly what Dolores will talk about right now. Thank you.
This specific, I will share my screen, 1 second. This specific ISO IEC 27001 deals with this. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. It was published in 2005 and it was updated last year, and it gives us a framework, as it says here, and guideline to establish, implement, and manage our own information security management system. Whether you are a freelancer, a big company, or you work in teams, it's very important to apply this. You can also be certified with this standard, but if not, you can apply the tips and the steps that it gives you to improve your own service and be a more trusted vendor to your client. The 3 main characteristics of this standard is confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. This ISMS system is a way to have everything there and preserve the most important thing that we have nowadays, that we work mainly online. We also, I don't know, it depends on the part of the world you are, but here we used to have more in paper many years ago when we began working, and now we have more virtual and everything changed a lot. So confidentiality has to be dealt differently what we were familiar with. And also take into account the authenticity of the information of these assets that Gabriela was talking to at the beginning, where the information comes from. Is it a faithful source? Where or from whom am I receiving this? And also be able to traceability, because you have to ensure that throughout the whole process, who was in charge of that and at what point in time, you know, everything, because that's crucial to be more, to safeguard your own asset. And this standard gives you many benefits, and it's a pretty long standard. So this is like an overview of all the things that you can incorporate and use as a benefit to your client. You can see here some cost reduction, legal compliance, all the protection of your own assets, and in a way to reflect and be aware of how you deal with your information, write all down and give your client a tangible demonstration on how you apply those practices. These are most of the benefits of this ISO. And our idea is that all of us, this ISO applies to every industry. It's not specifically for us as the ones that you know specifically for translation or for project managers or for linguistics. But in our own profession, we think it gives us a structured method, as it says here, to address all these compliance requirements. We can all, no matter if you are small or big, establish all these objectives, supervise all the activities that you do every day, and perhaps you are not aware, but you do it automatically, and to be able to detect and report when something happens, because you know everything or problems arise, different issues appear. So while you can measure all the objectives, you will be able to communicate, plan, and propose the best idea to your clients. This standard talks a lot about the threats that we are constantly facing every day, and it defines the threat as a potential cause of something unwanted to happen that may damage our own system, computer, or our business, you know, and all our assets are subject to threats. These are the different threats classified by this standard, that it's out of our own scope. We cannot manage that. This may happen anytime. So we have to be more aware, because they are not perhaps, of course, fortunately, very usual, and how we will deal with this if something happens. And also the vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities by this standard is a weakness in an asset or group of assets that can be exploited by one or more threats. Perhaps our policies or our own practices are not strong enough, and something unauthorized may happen that may be a weakness. Vulnerabilities, as different from threats, do not cause harm, but they are simple conditions that can cause a threat, and you know that threat affects assets. Some vulnerabilities examples are here. If you work in a place with many people and you have, for example, your open door and you are, I don't know, responding to a very important a quotation or whatever, you want something confidential, no one else can see it, you have to be very aware of your doors, your antivirus, how long, because I don't know how, when, before being auditors and studying all this, sometimes we don't remember when was the last time I updated my antivirus protection, for example, because you do it automatically and perhaps everything is updated and good, but if not, something very bad may happen. So you have to be aware and check every perhaps quarter or twice a year if your computer is safe, your antivirus, your firewalls, everything is updated. If your passwords are well, or you have a poor password management. I used to have all my password in my notes in the phone, imagine. Very risky. So now we have studied different ways. We use Bitburden. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's like a vault where you can store all your passwords, and it's very good to because it updates them, and they are very long and encrypted way that no one can enter into your mail, bank accounts, platforms, softwares, whatever. We have millions of passwords. So this is very important, and it's a vulnerability. Well, and the others. So threats and vulnerabilities are identified, you know them, and then you know that the risk that, you know, life is a risk, is the probability that the threat will turn into a disaster. So the idea of the standards, we cannot prevent risks, we cannot prevent disaster, but we can prevent disasters, because if we take advantage of this before it happens, we will be safe enough. According to the standard, the risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. From the very beginning, your objectives have to be clear. So our idea today was to have like a safety culture awareness, and to know that every accident is a notice that something is wrong with our own method, with the way we deal with our clients, with our team, or with our own material, in our case, our assets. So the idea is to be more aware, investigate, and then act, take practical steps. And for us, safety isn't expensive, it's priceless. And it's the way we can first and foremost differentiate with our competition when dealing with our clients. So if you want to continue reading about all this, you can contact us. These are our social media addresses. We will be happy to continue talking about this and learning new ways of protecting our own assets and safeguarding our business. Thank you.
Thank you for a very interesting lecture. And of course, awareness is a first step that we all need to improve. In the early 90s, I was provider of the Minister of Defense, and we had an auditor that used to come and check and very intimate issues about the location of the vault and things like that. So yeah, ever since, the threats are even bigger, and there's not enough awareness probably about this. Now, one thing that I still keep working that way ever since, for example, and again, that was 30 years ago or more, we were not allowed to have automatic updating of software, among them antivirus. Today, can you use automatic updating, or you must do it every time manually?
No, depending on what you decide, it's up to you, no?
Yes, the standard does not tell you what to do. It tells you you should consider updating. I mean, it gives you all the different ways that you could safeguard your assets, but it doesn't tell you how. It depends on the company, the organization. Each company has its own restrictions or permissions.
Sometimes us as translators, we do it when, I don't know, we change the computer or when something happened and then we forget. So we have to be aware and check, perhaps do it automatically, but once a year or twice a year, check that everything is fine, that everything is working, or if you need to update or do something else, because you are aware when the disaster is already present sometimes.
This is only the introduction. Actually, there are lots of case studies to be analyzed. For instance, when you are at the airport and there is someone who is shoulder browsing and is looking at what you're writing, well, that's a risk, and we should be aware of all those risks, because we are handling information that is not only ours, but maybe it's our clients. So our mission is just to create awareness about that and tell you different examples that can be cases of vulnerability, and you can avoid them.
Any more questions from the floor?
No questions.